What is your ideal world? What exists in your ideal world, what doesn't exist in real world, and what you want to have in this ideal world that exists in your head? Maybe there is no world hunger, maybe there is no discrimination, maybe everybody has a lot of money and everybody can do whatever that person wants to do and not what that person has to do because of the search for money, for example. You can write it down in the comments. So what is your ideal world? I personally think that having the ideal world is a great thing. It is great to have some target, some goal for you personally, and also for what you want society to reach to. What is the goal for the society in your opinion? But what we shall not forget, in my, again, personal opinion, is the fact that real world isn't like that. Real world is not ideal world. That's what today's video is about. Let's go. But obviously, before we begin, I have to tell you that this is Yury Experience, and here I share my various opinions and experiences about different topics. I currently upload one piece of content per week, and if you will enjoy this piece of content, then write a comment, leave some likes, leave some subscribes, whatever. What you can do in your platform. Let's go. I assume the main target group of this video are people who have this idea of the world, how the world shall work, and try to live the life based on the rules of their ideal world, but who ignore completely the fact that the world is not like that. Real world is different to their ideal world. And real world has other rules. The rules that you need to deal with. Maybe some consequences of decisions that you need to deal with, which maybe wouldn't be as important in your ideal world, but which do exist in the real one. In my opinion, the best way to talk about it is examples. For example, this channel. This channel's idea is to bring people to think about life. I want people to lead their life in more conscious way. I want people to think about their decisions. I want people to have their decisions consciously and to decide not only because of emotions, but also because of knowledge or maybe experience or skill sets, whatever. And although I live more or less according to these rules, I do understand that the world around me isn't like that. A lot of people live their life without thinking a lot about the consequences of their decisions. I've seen too many people who live short term, who make decisions right now for their life and they think it will work out somehow. And then it doesn't work out. If you don't think about the future at all, then your future will catch up to you at some point. And you would say, why shall it bother me that other people don't think about their future? For example, because my future depends on the future of these people, because my safety sometimes depends on the decisions of other people, safety of my family, of my future children, all of that can depend and will probably depend on decisions of other people. And when I make any decision, I have to consider the fact that the world isn't ideal. It's not like everybody thinks about the society. It's not like everybody tries to do their best for the person next to them. It's not like every person is a good person. Every person is a real person, and I have to deal with it. I have to deal with the consequences of people being just normal humans. Another topic that I already covered on this channel is naked skin. I told on a lot of occasions that in my personal opinion, naked skin shall be normalized. I think that a lot of sexualization that happens in society, in different parts of the society, happens partly, not completely, because our obsession with naked skin and obsession with the hidden naked skin. Basically, we find things that we cannot see on an everyday basis more erotic than the things that we can see on an everyday basis. For example, naked legs is not as attractive or sexy for a lot of men as bare breasts. Normally. As I mentioned, I'm a big fan of this idea, let's normalize naked skin. But do I think that it is normalized already? No, it is not. I would never advise a person, why don't you go naked for example, job interview. Why don't you do it? At this moment in time, in most of the countries, naked skin is only appropriate in very little amount of spaces, and even there you cannot go completely naked. Again, there are some exceptions, but in most of the cases in the world, you cannot be naked outside of your own house. And if you would do it, you would meet consequences of your decisions. Maybe police will come and do something to you. Maybe you will get like some catcalling that you didn't expect to or didn't want to get, but you will get it because you showed more naked skin that is more or less generally appropriate for that country or for that location. Basically, if you don't want the consequences of naked skin in your location, don't show the naked skin. And that brings me to the idea, I know that a lot of people want to have naked skin normalized. Why haven't we normalized the naked skin yet? I want to do it, so I would do it. A lot of people say it, especially like in some more liberal locations, but you shall not forget that that comes with consequences because the real world haven't normalized naked skin yet. So people will come at you for naked skin. People will not find it normal. People will call you names, and if you don't want to be called names, if you want maybe even consider personal safety, which is the case, which is connected to naked skin in some locations, then live in real world and expect the consequences. If you are not ready for consequences, don't do it. Another example, universities. I personally criticize universities on a lot of occasions, also educational system overall in various countries, and I would say that in Germany you don't necessarily have to have high education at university or something similar in order to strive in life, in order to have some financial stability, in order to have a good income, to live good, however you define good. You don't have to study at university to have that. But even in Germany 20 years ago, situation was different. 20 years ago, if you wanted to have a stability, then you go to university, because there was no other way to do it. In a lot of other countries, it is like that right now. Good example for that, Russia. In Russia, university is almost obligation for everybody. If you wasn't at university, there are normally people look down on you, because that's how society works in Russia. So if you want some status in Russia, then you have to have university degree. But on the other hand, in the USA, situation is strangely different. There it depends strongly on what university you go to and what degree you have, and based on that you either will have stability or status or whatnot, or maybe your student loan or student debt was so high that you actually don't have that financial stability, at least in the first years, maybe 20 years down the road, but not at the beginning. And there are a hell lot of countries where university is like literally your paycheck, and if you studied at university, you will have the best possible life in that country. And it is like that in some countries. I cannot talk for every country when I'm covering various videos. Which is why, in my personal opinion, even though in ideal world something like your educational degree shall not influence your status, shall not influence how people look at you, depending on the country, depending on the location, depending on time in history, the answer to this statement, the reaction to the statement will be different. If you think about it, even now, doctors and professor degrees, so if you have doctor prior to your name or professor prior to your name, it is status. It is like some cool person. If that person has it, then that person deserves it, and that person is intellectually great. Which doesn't necessarily have to be the case, if you ask me personally, but status is there. It is something that we cannot fight, at least at the moment. So if you want to have that kind of status, then obviously you can try to get it through this way. But it wouldn't be completely fair to say that people shall look similarly on professors and doctors in terms of reliability of information and on some other people, just because educational degree is not as important as people find it to be, as people in society see it. In the end, I will say one sentence: and it is like the summary of this whole video in my personal opinion. You can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of you ignoring the reality. If you want to, you can live in your ideal world. If you want to, you can live in some like separate way of thinking to all the people around you, but the consequences will probably find you. The consequences will find you, and your state of life can decline starting from that moment, because you didn't think this through. You lived in your own world, whereas all other people lived in the real one. And maybe that leads to some safety issues in your life, or maybe some financial issues in your life, or some status issues in your life. Whatever. Don't get me wrong, there is also a possibility that you living in your ideal world will lead to the real world becoming a better place, or to you becoming a better person in the real world. So be conscious about that. I think that's the main point. Be conscious of where in the world, where is in your environment is ideal world that you want, how you want it to be, and where is real world and how to play along the rules of the real world. At the end of the day, you have to know the rules of the real world. I think that's it. I already rotate myself in circles. Please live consciously, know what real world is and what ideal world is. And that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this piece of content, then please leave a like, leave a comment, leave the whatever what you can do on your platform. I will see you next Monday. Have a great week.